Good morning, my viewers and learners all over the world. Today is the continuation. Today we'll be looking at continuous data. If we could remember, in our previous lesson, we talked about discrete data. We said discrete data, for just a quick revision for those that were unable to look at what we discussed the last time. We said discrete data are data that can be counted. For example, we have one table, two tables, three tables. But today we'll be looking at continuous data. So we say continuous data are data that cannot be counted. Rather, they are data that can be measured. For instance, you can measure the height of a building. You can measure the distance from one point to the other. You can measure the weight of something. For example, once you are traveling at the airport, you check the weight of your luggage. So all these are examples of continuous data. I repeat, continuous data are data that cannot be counted. Rather, they are measured. For instance, you measure the building, you can measure the height of a building, you can measure the distance from point A to point B, and you can measure the weight of your luggage. As such, these are all examples of continuous data. So, on the continuation, we'll be also looking at finding the mean, mode, median, and range as it concerns continuous data. So let's move on and see more examples. Remember, we are dealing with continuous data. We are dealing with group frequency table as it relates to continuous data. First thing first, just for an example, all this page talks about the examples. So we'll quickly discuss this, then we'll move on to the other slides for class activities. So the first one says, this is the frequency table. I remember this is a group frequency table as it relates to the continuous data. So you can see this is the weight. This is the weight of certain, maybe we can say the weight of an luggage. So this is the weight, or this is the weight of some humans or human beings. So you can see this is the weight, this row, this is the weight, and this is the frequency. Remember, we say frequency shows how many times an event happens or how many times certain situation happens. So for the first one, so I will encourage my learners and viewers to read all this. This is self-explanatory, but I will discuss about the examples. Then we'll move on to the next slide to look at class activities. The first one says, this is the frequency table. The first question says, write down the modal class. Remember, the word modal is gotten modal is gotten from the word mode. Please, I don't want my learners or viewers to get confused of those words. Remember, examination awarding bodies, they are good at confusing learners. They are very good at that. That is their stock in trade. But I will encourage my learners to be a little bit smart, to be smarter than them. So once you hear this word modal class, it simply means find the mode. And this class is like using, how will I say, the class talks about this whole numbers. So it tells us that class is just like another word of saying range. Remember, we said continuous data. They are data that cannot be counted, rather they are measured. So this does not give us, how will I say, it just gives us a range of certain number. So this is what is called class. As such, is called class. So the entire role here is called class. This is class, 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 and this is the frequency table. And this is the frequency column. So the first question says write down the modal class. To determine your modal class, we need to look at the frequency column. So we concentrate on this. Then we check which is the highest frequency here. So the highest frequency here is 18. Then you trace it to this. As such, your modal class is this 50 less than weight less than or equal to 60. So this is your modal class. Then the next question says write down the class containing the median. To write down the class containing the median, so what we'll need to do, for you to understand this a lot, I will refer you to the previous session on discrete data. So what we need to do is, first thing first, we cannot determine this. So what you just need to do is to remember this formula: n plus 1 divided by 2. N plus 1 divided by 2, where our n is the total frequency. Is the total frequency here. So let's see what's our total frequency. From the question, you can see the question says the table shows information about the weights in kilogram of 60 school children. In other words, your total frequency should give you 60 of 60 school children. So our total frequency is 60. So you can double check. So let's double check. 8 plus 16 will give us 24. 24 plus 18 will give us 42. Then 42 plus 12 is 54. 54 plus 6 is 60. As such, our total frequency is 60 plus 1 divided by 2. That will give us 61 divided by 2. 61 divided by 2 is the same thing as 30.5. 30.5. So 61 divided by 2 is the same thing as 30.5. So to determine 30.5 only tells us the position of the median class. Remember, this is not your final answer. I don't want my learners to get confused. 30.5 is not the median class. It tells you the position of your median class. So to determine where we can get 30.5, you need to visit the frequency column as usual. So you start adding. 8 plus 16 will give us 24. 24 plus 18, that will be 42. As such, 30.5 falls within this rule. It falls within this rule here. I repeat, 30.5 only told us where our median class is located. It tells us the position. And to determine that, you need to start adding, you come to the frequency column and start adding the frequencies together. So this is 8 plus 16 will give us 24. 24 plus 18 is 42. That means 30.5 can be located in this row. Then you trace it, and this is your median class. So our median class is 50 less than the weight, less than or equal to 60. The next question says calculate an estimate from the mean weight. Calculate an estimate for the mean weight. To do this, we need two extra columns. The first column is your mid-interval value, or better still known as your midpoint. Then the second column is you multiply each frequency by the midpoint you have. Remember, mid-interval value is also known as your midpoint. It's just semantics or words they use. They mean the same thing. You can see midpoint, mid-interval values is the same thing as midpoint. You can see it here as it is stated here. Mid-interval values, another word for it is known as the midpoint. So I will encourage my learners to always go for this word midpoint because it's a lot easier and very easy to remember. So once we've created the column, the next question is, how do we find our midpoint? To get your midpoint, you need to add the weight. You add 30 plus 40 will give us 70. Then 70 divided by 2 will give us 35 as the first midpoint. We continue. 40 plus 50 is 90. 90 divided by 2 will give us 45. 50 plus 60 is 110. 110 divided by 2 will be 55. 60 plus 70, 130. 130 divided by 2 will be 65. 70 plus 80 is 150. 150 divided by 2 will give us 75. Then we create another column as mentioned earlier, and it will be labeled frequency times mid-interval value or midpoint. Then you start multiplying together. So 8 times 35 will give us 280. 16 times 45 will give us 720. 18 times 55 will give us 990. 12 times 65 will give us 780. 6 times 75 will give us 450. And at the end of the day, we add the total of this. That will give us 3,220, and the total frequency, which we've already known to be 60. So to estimate the mean weight will be this divided by 60, which is here. So which is the fourth column divided by the second column here, which is the total frequency, will give us this. So this question means 53.7 kilogram in three significant figures. Then the final one is find the range. The last question says estimate the range of weight. So what you need to do, remember to find the range of a certain list of number means the highest minus the lowest. So you pick the highest weight minus the lowest weight, will give us 50 kilograms. So that would be 80 minus 30 will give us 50 kilograms. So to appreciate this more, let's move to the next slide and see our class activity. So in our usual way, we'll solve one of the questions and encourage our learners to have a go on the other questions. And if you have issues with this, you can either visit the previous slide and go through the examples which we've discussed and come back at this to have a go. Once you've done that, you can now move to the answer slide to cross-check your answer. So in this case, we are given this. In our usual way, we attempt the first questions and encourage our learners to have a go at the other questions. So the first one says the table shows the length of 100 fish from a local river. The question now tells us that we should calculate an estimate of the mean weight of the fish. You can see this is midpoint. This time around, midpoint, the word midpoint is being used here. Then this other this other column will be known as your frequency times midpoint. Frequency times midpoint here. Frequency times midpoint. So the next question you ask yourself is, how do we get our midpoints? As mentioned earlier, the midpoint will be 0 plus 10, will be 10 divided by 2, now will be 5. So to get the first midpoint will be 5. The second one is 10 plus 20 will give us 30. 30 divided by 2 will be 15. 20 plus 30 is 50. 50 divided by 2 will give us 25. 30 plus 40 is 70. 70 divided by 2 will give us 35. Then 40 plus 50 is 90. 90 divided by 2 will give us 45. Then we'll find the total frequency. From the question, we're told that this length are all length of 100 fish from a local river. So therefore, this should give us a total of 100. Then we multiply to get frequency times midpoint. So that is 21 times 5 will give us 105. 11 times 15 will give us 165. 21 times 35 will give us 775. 12 times 35 will give us 420. Then 25 times 45 will give us 1,125. Then we'll find the total of all these numbers. The total will give us 2,590. As mentioned earlier, to find the mean weight length of the fish, you take this divided by this. Remember, that's the total is 2,590 divided by 100, which is the same thing as 2,590. They are all the same thing divided by 100. Remember the rules, we've discussed about this in our previous sessions. You move the decimal point to the left 2 times. Is 1, 2. So our final answer is 25.90 centimeters or 25.9. So let's move to the next answer slide and check our answers. You can see it's absolute correct. Everything here is correct. So we've come to the end of this session. I will encourage my learners or viewers to keep practicing. Remember, the more you practice, the more you get better at what you do. And thank you very much. This is your regular host, Valentine, and see you in the next session. Thank you and bye.